And that's why you want to keep your fingers clear. Hi guys, thanks for tuning in today. Today I have some calipers here. These are from a 1978 Porsche 911, and it's a dual piston caliper with the pistons being on opposite sides, which is a little bit unique. Usually they're just on one side. If it's a dual piston, it'll have a piston right next to each other on one side. So these are a little trickier to get apart because if one goes and the other one doesn't, you'll lose pressure, and it's a little bit tricky. Sometimes you'll have to hold this with a C-clamp. The one that wants to go to try to get the other one out. But I'll show you how I get stuck pistons out. I'll do two different methods. I'll show you one for sure will get any piston out, no matter how rusted it is. I've never had it fail. These are pretty good shape. The seals are a little nicked up, so there might be some rust in there, but I have a feeling these are going to come out relatively easy. But I'll show you the tool I made and how to get them out if you have some rusted pistons. And then we'll, after that, we'll bead blast them, and we'll do some tests with some different coatings. We'll use a caliper paint, ceramic paint, a transfer gray. We'll do some tests. We'll heat them up and see if one dissipates the heat better than the other. And then we will put it all back together and have the final product. What I'll do is I'll show in the description the different chapters if you want to skip around and get to just the coating part or the tests. So stick around. Okay, so we have it chucked up here in the vise. I have my rubber soft jaws in there so we don't mar it up at all. The first thing we want to do is take a pick and get this rubber seal off here. And there is a retainer behind here. You want to remove that. We're not reusing these, so they can tear up. And here's the retainer. That's basically just holding the boot on, not the piston itself in there. So now that we have it completely removed on both sides, I'll use this is a piece of MDF. Plywood is probably better. If one lets loose, it'll probably break this. But we're gonna apply some pressure using a air hose. This is like 100 psi with a rubber tip air nozzle. We'll shoot air into there, and usually just one goes. If you're lucky, both of them will go. But this will stop it from completely going out and shooting across the room or firing into the other piston and damaging it. And you want to keep your hands clear of this because it comes out, like I say, like an air rifle. So here it goes. Yeah, so we got one to move and the other one's stuck. This piece of MDF holds the piston, so it doesn't come completely out, so we still have pressure in the system that we can keep working on this second piston. So we'll give it some more air pressure. So I can hear a little bit of air leak around here, so we're not getting full pressure on here. So in one stuck, we're gonna have to go to plan B. Okay, so plan B is I took a fitting. This is a brake line fitting, and I welded a grease zerk onto it. So basically, we're gonna put this fitting into here, and we'll tighten that up a little. Doesn't have to be super tight. And what we're going to do is use a grease gun and put some grease into here, and that will push this piston out. A grease gun has about 2,000 psi compared to 100 psi with an air gun. So what I'm going to do though first is push this piston back in. It's less grease to fill, and you do have to completely dismantle this too when you do this, because you have to get all of that grease out. But this is going to be completely dismantled, put in an ultrasonic cleaner. We will get all the grease out. Some professional shops have a way to do it with a liquid like a lighter oil or water, but I don't have that capability, and most people, DIY don't have that capability. But pretty much everyone has a grease gun, so this will work. Like I said, I've never had it fail. But I'm going to press this piston back, put another piece of wood in here just to hold it back, and just a little less grease to fill up. So first thing is to push this piston back a little. Okay, so I have a little block of wood now in here, and this piston pushed back. So that'll hold that piston back. This is the one we're trying to work on. And I got a grease gun here, full tube of grease in it. And we'll attach that to the grease fitting and slowly start pumping grease into there. And you'll see, hopefully, that one will probably move first and then that one. Since grease doesn't compress like air, this will come out nice and slow. This won't come out like an air rifle. See, that one came out nice and slow. Now I'm going to hopefully work on that one or break this piece of MDF, one of the two. Started to move, and there it goes. Now I have a little rust on it. Now I have that one up. Now I can take the wood out. And we might have to hold this one back with a C-clamp to work this one farther out. So I'll have to take it out of the vise. So what I'll do now is just hold this one back with a vise. Even press it back in a little. That one's pretty free, and we hit it with WD. And we'll work on getting this one out a little more. Hit that one with some WD also. And there's that one. So that trick works every time. It'll pull out any piston, no matter how rusty it is. I've hit out some really bad ones. But your caliper is now full with grease. That's the only downfall. This has to come completely apart and get a thorough wash in some type of heated bath where it can get all of that grease out, because grease is not compatible with brake fluid. See, this is completely free, you know, filled with grease. So to get this last one out, just the last little bit, you just tap it with this rubber or plastic hammer. Just a little bit of tapping, it's almost out. And there's that one. And then just dig out as much grease as you can. So all it really costs you is a half a tube of grease. Just buy the cheapest stuff you can find. So now we got those extracted, we will move on to dismantling the caliper. This is a two-piece caliper, and it's held together with 4 bolts here. And these take a special Rebe bit, it's called. These are German ATE calipers. I think Fiat and some BMW, Mercedes, a lot of the German companies use this Rebe bit, which is tricky to find, but it's out there, you can get it. You don't want to use a Torx or a triple square. That will not work on these. You'll end up stripping it out. It looks like a Torx, but it's not pointed like a Torx, it's squared. It's a completely different bit. So you definitely want to use that. And we'll probably just save these bolts. They look in pretty good shape. Otherwise, we could replate them and put them in a black chromate. That would be the best. Or you could do like a black oxide finish, but that doesn't last quite as long. So now on to dismantling it. So now take out the bleeder. These, if they don't go right away, you want to put a little heat on them. And then here's the Rebe bits. I believe this one's 6mm. And they're just a squared off Torx. Those will fit right in there. And then you want to just unscrew the bolt, use this to hold it. Don't screw that. You'll risk stripping it. These bolts are actually probably worth more than the caliper because people use Torx on those and you can't get them anymore. They don't make them. And they use these spacers here for different sizes of calipers. And then the bolt would change too then, the length of the bolt. And there are O-rings in here, so those we will replace out. So the next step is I'll probably put them in the ultrasonic cleaner, try to get all this grease out. We'll run some air through there first to blow the majority of it out, and then we'll give this a good clean, and then we'll bead blast it. So into the ultrasonic cleaner. Okay, we have the calipers all back from bead blasting and cleaning. Basically went over it with a 80 grit glass bead. I got pretty clean. There's a little bit of the zinc plating left on, very light coats, streaks here and there. These were originally zinc plated from the factory, but we're gonna go ahead and test the caliper paint. This is caliper paint you can get at any automotive store. And the Cerakote Transfer Gray. This is a ceramic coating, and it's actually designed to transfer heat away. So we're going to see if that actually works, or if the caliper paint is just as good, or if this holds heat in. It is black, and a lot of people say black dissipates the heat quicker. This is a gray, so if anything, this has advantage being black. But we'll give them a test. We'll paint one side of the caliper with the transfer gray, and the same side to the other caliper in the caliper paint. We'll put it in an oven, 300 degrees. We'll put it in there for 15 minutes, move them around so they get equally heated. And with a temperature gun, we'll test and see if one is actually dissipating the heat faster, if one comes out of the oven hotter or cooler. But what we'll do is we'll start with just get a baseline on the bare calipers. So we'll put these in first, get a baseline, make sure they're both equally heat up the same and dissipate at the same rate. So we have a baseline to when we go ahead and coat them, and we'll see what kind of differences we get between the coated caliper and the baseline, and then also compare them to each other. Okay, we have just a basic toaster oven here. I have it set at 300 degrees, and the dinger went off, so it's up to temperature, it's preheated. And we'll put the calipers in, and I'm going to set the timer for 15 minutes. We'll give it 15 minutes, and every 5 minutes I'm going to mix them around to make sure it gets evenly heated. All right, so that's at 15 minutes, and we'll move it around every 5. Okay, we're down to 5 minutes, and we're going to take and turn them this way here so they're equally facing. I believe the heating element is over here. Okay, we're at 2 minutes, so what I'm going to do is flip them 180 and also back to the front. Okay, actually I have it at 30 seconds. We'll flip it. Okay, so we're about done here. I'm going to take them out, put them onto this block of wood, and we'll test it with a heat gun to get some measurements. And we'll start the timer. And that. So we're getting 122. 130 on this one. 126. Still 122 range. If we use the laser lights and get them the exact size of that circle on both, 117, 117. So that's going to be the key. There's this little circle from the castings on here, and these lasers make a circle. If I get them that exact same size, that'll give me let me know that I'm exact same distance. 116, 117.3, 117 point. So that's the most accurate way to go, is use this circle on the casting, and we can get it within a couple degrees. Yeah, 115.9, 115.9. So at 3 minutes out of the oven, it has only gone down a few degrees. They're both at exactly 115. 112.6. 111.2. So this has been 10 minutes. We're at 106.5. 105.6. So basically 106 is an average between the two, plus or minus 1 degree, and that was at 10 minutes. So it goes down to basically 106 in 10 minutes, which that'll be a good baseline to test the coated calipers to see where they're at 10 minutes. Okay, we're going to use some duplicolor caliper paint. It says 2 light coats and a medium wet final coat per the instructions. 10 minutes between coats. So that's what we'll do. I'd say that'd be good for a first light coat. Okay, it's been another 10 minutes, so this will be the caliper paint final coat, and this will do a little heavier medium coat. Okay, we're going to apply the Cerakote now, just have it in a touch-up gun. We'll do the exact same thing, 2 light coats and then 1 medium coat. Make sure you wear a respirator for this. This Cerakote has a really strong ammonia smell. Here's coat number 2. This spray gun sprays out a little finer than the spray can does. The spray can on a caliper paint seemed to really lay it down. So I'm giving this a little bit extra, try to replicate what the spray can was doing. Here's coat number 3. We'll pull these out. start the timer. So right out of the gate we have 130 on the ceramic and 140 on the caliper paint. So right out of the oven there's a 10-degree difference, but they're all hotter than the Bear. The Bear was about 127. This one's close. It's 129 now. 51 seconds. And 139. At 2 minutes we have 127. 137. So still a 10-degree difference. Okay, at 5 minutes, 122.4, 130.5. So here's 10 minutes. This will be the final temperature reading. 113.5. And 120.4. So there's definitely a difference between the two. Whether or not it's because it's black and this is silver. Silver reflects heat a little better. Black absorbs it. Some people say black is better to paint aluminum engine cases, heads, calipers, stuff you want it to pull the heat out. But with this test, I pretty much see that this is better. You know, it's a considerable difference. You know, when you're talking 10% or so of a difference. I definitely am going to go with the transfer gray and not the caliper paint. You could get a different result if it was the same color. If you got a silver gray caliper paint, I could run a test later on that and see if there's that temperature difference again. I did mix these up really good, like the first control batch. Every couple minutes they got turned around, so they were evenly heated in there. We could bring them up hotter and see what happens, but I think that temperature is a decent range to get a reading. So my conclusion is that in this case, the black caliper paint and this transfer gray, the gray definitely runs cooler. So what I'm going to do is bead blast the black off of here, paint it with the caliper gray, and we'll reassemble the calipers. These pistons here have little notches in them. They need to be clocked at 20 degrees. I usually line up this notch with this pin hole, and this one here just halfway in the center of the mounting bolts with the bleeder on the top here. The rotor will go this way. It just creates, I guess, a better surface, a little bit of an angle so it wears evenly, I guess, and doesn't squeal. And I'm just putting a very, very thin coat of Sil Glide on here. Kit comes with the retaining clips. Here's the 20-degree angle. Missing a bolt. We're gonna have to try to find it. Found it. Take these over to the vise to torque them down. Okay, so here's the final product. I'll put a chart up here with the findings of, I ran the test twice, so I kind of did an average between the two, and they were pretty consistent between the two tests. The only thing is in there is the bare casting. In the beginning, it looks like it drops really quick. I think I might not have been right on this target here. If I'm right on there, it was very consistent. I think the first test I was a little bit off, so I kind of took an average. So I believe that the front of that, the graph for the bare casting is a little bit lower and kind of more consistent than the quick drop. But it is definitely cooler. I mean, it was the coolest out of all of them was the bare casting. The Cerakote was second and the Caliper paint was third. Now, I'm not sure if it's because the Caliper paint was black and the Cerakote was gray. It could be. I don't have any Caliper paint in gray to test, but that could have been it. But a lot of people say that the black paint, is the way to go. It dissipates the heat the fastest. They say go with the black if you're painting stuff. But I definitely would go with the Cerakote Transfer Gray. And I believe it's the same as their other C-Series colors. So this would come in a whole bunch of different colors. And you can get free samples on their site. I would definitely go with this, or go with the bare casting. But with bare casting, you're going to have rust in 2 days where I am. You couldn't run a bare casting if you wanted it to look decent. So the Cerakote, I think, is the best option. The Caliper paint just tends to hold in the heat, according to my findings. And that probably applies to engine blocks, heads, anything that you're going to paint. I'd be careful painting it with regular paint, just because it's going to run a little bit warmer than if you used a ceramic coat, ceramic-based paint like the Cerakote, or just don't paint it at all. But that's just my findings, not super scientific. I just wanted to see how that test would turn out, and it seemed to be, pointing towards the best bet is the Cerakote. So that's it. Like I say, you can leave a comment. Let me know if I'm way off base. So that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe, give me a like, and we'll see you next time.